Hi, everybody.
Hello there.
I'm Jerry.
And I'm Linda.
We're the Village's Newcomers. Gizmo's right here. He's kind of taking it easy today. We're coming to you with a topic of interest to many villagers. We get emails all the time concerned about water, the taste of the water, the hardness of the water, the safety of the drinking water.
Right.
And there are lots of horror stories in Florida, so-called, from people that worry that the water's running out, that the aquifers are going dry. We tried to get answers from the Village's water treatment plant. We were unsuccessful. So the next place to turn, when we moved in, she hated the taste of water.
I did not like it. It just kind of, I had to do something.
I couldn't taste it. I thought it was fine. But she didn't like the taste of the water, so we did our research. We got on Nextdoor. Lots of people are out there wanting to sell you water treatment filters. We chose one. We're very happy with it. It's called the Nova filter. And so we went to the guy that makes and sells the Nova water filters, and he's here with us today. I'd like to welcome Bob Novak.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming with us today. I've got a long list of questions here, and I know that you may or may not know the answers, but the people out there are concerned about drinking water. First off, I'll ask you, is the drinking water good in Florida?
It meets FDA standards, but everybody has a different tolerance for the different elements and minerals that are in the water. To some people it could taste okay, and some people taste immediately that it's off. So it also depends to some degree on your taste buds, which in some degree depends on your age. So, there's a difference there. We've gone into many homes where husband and wife will differ into their, feeling on whether it's good or bad.
Well, doesn't water taste different in different parts of the country? I mean, like when we came from Indiana, it tasted different than when we came here.
Because it depends on where underground it's coming from. In Florida, it's coming from a limestone aquifer. So the limestone has a sulfur taste to it sometimes, okay, that some people, again, taste, some don't, okay. The other issue is because it's a stone-based aquifer, there's a lot of sediment in the water. So there's a lot of sediment's a nice word for dirt, okay. And that settles into all parts of the house. And it'll go through your plumbing, it'll go through everything. It'll go through your hot water heater. So sediment is a factor, and sediment also offsets your sudsing ability to some degree, either bathing or doing laundry. If you don't have a filter, you can sometimes take, for example, a white linen and peel back the hem on it, and sometimes you'll see a shadow in there. That's the sediment, okay? And that sediment can be anywhere from 30, 40 micron size, which is considered large particle-wise, to sub 5 micron size. And you don't see it all the time, but you'll see it in those seams often. You'll also see it if you lift up the lid on your toilet tank. That sediment, when the water comes into the tank, the sediment being heavier than water, settles to the bottom, and you can see a sand-like shadow in the bottom of it. Okay, so, and quite frankly, you're ingesting it. It ain't gonna kill you, but you're ingesting it.
I want the folks at home to know that we don't know Bob personally, and we bought our system just like everybody else. But he's the guy we're going to for answers, and we, again, appreciate him being here. I'd like to know, Bob, do you think that the water here would be drinkable without a water filter? Would it be safe to drink?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It meets all FDA requirements, but it doesn't meet requirements if you took your water to an independent laboratory, okay, and you had it tested. I don't mean the kind of testing that they might do with water drops, like a pool type test. It's not that. An actual laboratory where they analyze it through machines. You would see that there's a lot of elements in the water that are not desirable to have, okay? So you can have, for argument's sake, calcium in the water. You could have a trace of salt. You don't have really, in this area, you don't have lead, you don't have any appreciable amount of arsenic. In certain parts of the country, you do. In certain parts of the country, you have to have different types of filters. When I moved here 12 years ago, no, 9 years ago, it was 2012, I immediately tasted the water. And I put the filter in immediately, because we had been selling filters on Long Island in our aquarium business for years. And I knew this needed something. And we started off in my own house with the whole house water filter. And the taste difference was immediate. In fact, when I first moved here, I wouldn't let my dog drink the water. I gave him bottled water until we installed the filter, because I didn't know what was in the water. At a later date, I had conversations with the village's water department and found out some interesting things that they do and don't do. And basically, their function is to make sure it meets those FDA guidelines. They want to make sure, number one, there's no bacteria in the water. And what they're doing basically is testing the water on a daily basis. And if the bacterial count is a certain level, they're adding a certain amount of chlorine to the water, which is done almost all throughout the United States. And that chlorine is to kill that bacteria. But the other side of the coin is that chlorine's coming through the pipes. So you're ingesting chlorine, you're bathing in chlorine, and chlorine is a carcinogen. But they say that it's at such a low level that it's acceptable by FDA standards. Once the chlorine does its job delivering the water to your home, you don't need it anymore. And that's the purpose of the carbon that's in the system. The carbon removes that chlorine.
Okay. So the water filtration will make your water taste better because it's removing these foreign objects that give the water other tastes.
Yeah, but by the same token, it's kind of interesting because some people will say, I put your filter in, but now I taste something. And what they're doing is they're tasting the minerals in the water that the chlorine was in itself masking. So it takes a little time to get used to that. But once they're used to that, they realize the difference. And it's also, most of our recommendations come from neighbor to neighbor. Because if you have a neighbor over your house and they get a glass of water, they go, wow, this water tastes different. It's good. I go to restaurants in the villages, and sometimes that water knocks me over. Especially up north. One of our favorite restaurants is up by Lowe's. And they come with the water, and I said, no, give me bottled water, or give me a drink. But some water in different parts of the villages does taste different.
Where does the villages get its drinking water? Do they store it in tanks? Does it come straight out of the aquifer to a treatment plant? How does that work, do you know?
It comes, as far as I know, it comes to a treatment plant, okay? There's 2 drilling points, one for irrigation water, which is at a different level than drinking water. So sometimes you could go, for instance, by a golf course that's running these really big guns on the course, and you could smell the water. It's especially up here at Sarasota, by the firehouse. Sometimes you could drive by and it actually comes right in your car window. Wherever they're drawing it from is just a bad area. You would never want to drink that water. But the water that they're drilling at the depth is cleaner. It must be deeper. I don't know for a fact it is, but I'm assuming it's deeper and cleaner. And the treatment plant is where they're going to test for the bacteria and any other elements that they do test for. And then it's pumped out either through a pumping station or pumped to a tank, and from a tank to the pipes.
We know around the villages there are these big water towers.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they're landmarks all throughout the villages, and I'm assuming they're full of water.
Yeah, they must be, because they pump it up
Right.
to give pressure to the system. That's my understanding. Okay. Now there's an area north of us here that's a higher elevation. Their water pressure only reaches 40 or 50 psi. whereas in other parts of the villages, the typical water pressure is around 70. Now, south of 44, Fenny, St. Catharines, Bradford, etc., their water pressure recently increased. It increased by about 5 psi. And we called the water department, and they said, yes, we increased it. And we also tested the chlorine level down there. And the gal said to us, yes, we increased the chlorine level down here to 1.5. So we said, well, the rest of the villages is about 1. Why are you 1.5? Her answer kind of astounded us. She said, that's the way I like it. And no background information as to why.
Same way we do things here.
Yeah. Well, it's
'Cause I
supposed to
like
be
it.
that way. So it depends on the pumping station, you know. And now, you know, they were taken over by Jacobs down there, so some things changed after the takeover. But the water down there is starting to clear up more so than it did when they first started. When they first started, the water was very, very dirty. When I say dirty, I mean in as far as sediment. When we were changing the filters, which we typically do at 26,000 gallons, they were coming out like brown mud. In fact, in some homes, they were so bad when they were flushing pipes that they actually clogged the filters prematurely. That has stopped. We haven't seen that now in a long time. But I think that's because of the change in management down there.
So in an area of new construction like St. Catherine and all of those places down in Southern Oaks, for a few years, they're going to need to change their filters more frequently than people up here.
Yes.
We, as you guys know, because you saw the video last year where we changed our own filters in our Nova system, when I was surprised because I took those out and they looked really good.
Well, let me explain to you what you're looking at, okay? We've had that reaction. They look white. Well, that's to the naked eye. But remember that we're dealing with particles that are 10 microns. The human eye really can't see 10 microns. The human eye, I think, loses visibility at around 15 microns. So the first filter is a 20 micron filter where you'll see the dirt. For example, this is an extreme case. Here you can see this is the first filter, which is a 20. It's almost black. And that's the 10. The 10 looks white, but if you really looked at it close, it's kind of tan color. But again, because you can't see it. And the last one is even smaller. That's the carbon. So you do have variations in that amount of dirt. And I now live in Chitty Chatty, and I just changed my filters last week. I moved into the house in October, and they were dirty, but they weren't filthy. So apparently they're doing a better job now than they were.
So you got 9 months out of those filters.
Yeah, I just changed it. I just changed it because I don't like to push the limit. We have too many people, customers, that assume they change the filters at a 1-year mark. We have other people that assume they change their filters based on the water pressure gauges. And when we install the filters, we give them an instruction sheet, and it says the gauges are not there to tell you when to change the filters. The gauges are there to tell you if there's a real problem. There could be problems in other areas, which I can explain later. So the filters need to be changed to 26,000 gallons. Now you get a bill every month from your amenities, your HOA bill. On there it tells you your water usage. You don't need to go to the point that you look at every single month throughout the year and try and add it up and put it in an Excel spreadsheet and calculate it. You'll notice they're about the same use. You're going to be using 3,000 gallons one month, 3,100 maybe, 2,800. You could say that on average you're around 3,000. You'll have another user that runs in the high threes. Okay, you'll have some that run below 2,000. So what you do is mentally try and take an average of what you think you're using a month and just divide that into 26,000. So it could be 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, 12 months. If you're living alone, you'll have less water use, for example. But I like to use a rule of thumb of 8, 9 months.
People that don't live here write us, I wouldn't call it hate mail, but nasty mail saying, why would you live in Florida? You're bleeding the water supply. It's going to run out. Is there a danger of that?
I think if there was, I don't think they would get permits from the state of Florida to build all these houses. I mean, those houses are the permits are based on what just like the traffic patterns. I mean, it's the same, I assume, system they use to approve these things.
Do you have any records that would tell you how many water filters you've sold in the villages?
Right around 9,000.
9,000 in the villages. That's incredible.
Well, 6 years ago, Brad joined me down here from New York, and he wanted to expand the business. I was not really doing it as a business, and he came down here and he tried it out with me for a month, and he said he liked it, and we started to advertise, and we started to build the business up quite a bit from now.
One thing we've noticed about the water here, and being from Indiana, it's different. Our water's deep in Indiana. In the summer, the water's warm. The cold water's warm and the hot water's warm.
Yeah, because of ground temperature.
We found out several things today, that the water, though it may taste different or maybe not as good as you like it, it's safe to drink when it's not filtered. As Linda says, it tastes better filtered. Or actually, I wouldn't say it tastes better. Perfect water has no taste at all, right?
Right.
So filtration will remove the things that give an unpleasant taste. We've found out that there really isn't an imminent danger of running out of water here in Florida. We've learned that they test the water on a regular basis. So it's just a matter of personal preference as to whether you filter or not, wouldn't you say?
We run into complaints of people that have for example, a water softener only, sold to them under the guise that this does everything. Well, a water softener only softens the water, but all these chemicals and sediment go through the water softener. It has no effect on it. The water softener has two functions. It removes calcium and magnesium. That's all it does. So all these other impurities go through it. But the complaint we get a lot is spotting and calcium buildup on faucets, on screens, on shower heads and whatnot. And that is the amount of hardness that's in the water. The hardness here in houses north of 44 is roughly about 8.5. And south of 44, though, it's 10.5 and 11, so there's harder water down there. About half our customers do opt for a water softener to either be installed initially or added later. And that depends on their tolerance for this calcium buildup. Or you're washing your car and you have a lot of spots on it. Some people don't want to bother with that. They don't want to chamois the car down after they wash it. Or they don't want to use a cleaning agent like CLR to clean the calcium deposits off their faucets and shower heads, etc. They don't want to bother with it. They just want perfect water.
We hope you guys have learned a lot about the water here in the villages in Central Florida. We certainly didn't know much about it, but we're thankful to have had Bob come over and explain it. So nice of you.
I enjoyed it. It was painless.
And guys, listen, if you're interested in seeing what a Nova tank looks like, we did a show about a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, where we changed the filters, as we said. I'll put a link to that in the video description today, as well as a link to Bob's webpage if you're interested in looking at those Nova water filters. We're glad you could be with us today. We always appreciate that.
Please give us a like and press that subscribe button. Until next time.
See you when you get here.